What were your own thoughts about going to the White House?
It's funny. I used to think, I used to worry about going into the White House. This was before the campaign started, or it got so close. You know, thinking all the things anyone thinks. It'll be a goldfish bowl, the Secret Service, I'll never see my husband. Then once Jack was nominated and everything, then you were so happy for him. And then once you got in it, I mean, you were just so happy for him. And then you could find out, then you found out that, you know, it was really the happiest time of my life. It was when we were the closest. I didn't realize the physical closeness of having his office, you know, in the same building, seeing him so many times a day. There was always a great tension living there, but I remember thinking in the White House, but what was the matter with me that I spent so much time worrying, would it ruin our marriage to get in the White House? And here it was so happy, and then I thought, you never can know what would be the best for you. Then once we were in the White House, I used to worry all the time about getting out of it. And I used to think, what will you do with Jack, who will be 51 or something when he leaves? This caged tiger who's, you know, such a young age, still able to do so much. And sometimes I used to ask him about that and be worried. And he'd always soothe me and say, you know, it won't be a problem when it happens. And
what did he ever talk about what he might do after the presidency?
Yeah, yes, in the beginning he used to sort of treat it as a joke and didn't like to talk about it. And he'll say, oh, I'll be ambassador to Italy or something. And that would get, but he was just teasing. And then I'd say, oh, you have to run for the Senate. And again, this shows something wonderful about Bobby. Once I told Bobby that I was so worried, and that if only Jack could run for the Senate, you know, have Teddy's seat, because Jack said they wouldn't take two brothers from there. So Bobby went and spoke to Teddy and came back and told me that Teddy said that he would not run, you know, when Johnny, that's what the brothers always called him, was out. Which is so touching, because that was the highest thing that I think Teddy could ever have hoped for. And anyway, I told Jack that, because I always remember him saying how John Quincy Adams came back and was a congressman all his life, and I thought he could be a senator and have a base and do all his other things from there. And Jack was really wounded when I told him that, and he was touched that I cared so much to be so worried, but he said, no, I never would do that. And take that from Teddy, how could you think I'd do such a thing? So you go back to Bobby and tell him. But I think that shows something so close about those three brothers.
Yes.
That each would, you know, there's Bobby making Teddy give up his prize, which Teddy does gladly, and then Jack refusing. They all worked with such love for each other. Then just towards the end, Jack was thinking about being either publisher of a great paper or, I don't know, Bundy said to me the other night that he thought he might have ended up in television or something. I think he would have had to do something. He was getting rather excited about it. Sometimes he talked to Ben Bradley about it. I think we could buy the Washington Post or something, rather jovially, but you could always tell when he was toying with an idea that pleased him in his mind. I think he would have gone around the world, written a book, done something with its library, and then really entered into that.
Where would you have lived, you suppose?
Well, I just assumed we'd have lived in Cambridge, but maybe we wouldn't have. Or then I thought we should still live in Washington, but now I know that would have been completely wrong. And Jack always said we shouldn't live in Washington. He was right. It would be too hard for an ex-president to live in this city, which is so oriented to the new president.
Yes.
So maybe we'd have lived in...
He spoke to me about living in Cambridge part of the time. I got the impression that he would spend 3 or 4 months a year there and further.
Sort of Cambridge, New York. I think that's what it sort of would have been.
The newspaper, too, he also...
You know, that would have been...
possibility.
Yeah, that would have been such a full-time job with him. And Bundy said to me the other night, it just made me so sad because Jack could have had his happiest years later. He said he sort of would have been the president of the West. And you know, anywhere he went, he would have been, and anything he said, people would have listened to so. And then Bundy said, I don't know if it's true or not, that after a while there would have been such a demand for him to come back that they might have had to do something about seeing if you could have a third term, you know, not in succession, but later.
Mm-hmm.
Jack always said he never, I used to say, if only they could make a rule to keep you here forever. Because the one thing you know when you leave the White House, and Jack always used to say this, is that you just have a cold fear going over you every day when you pick up the morning papers, because you know how close it is, how some man far down can make a blunder, and like Skybolt or something, and everything can blow up. And the president just has to be watching everyone everywhere, which only someone young and brilliant and like Jack could do. So you'd have been just scared all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing you had no power to do anything. But Jack always said, oh my God, no, I never, 8 years is enough in this place. And then you could see that it really did, it is the burdens, the way you look at Lincoln's pictures over the years and how much tighter and older he got. You could see that in Jack's pictures, though he never spoke about it. He would sometimes speak of the cares of it, but he'd never, you know, moan or feel sorry for himself. But he'd just say like a, you know, a prisoner thinking of getting out. Oh no, 8 years is enough in this place.